call strings, and string manipulation. When you talk about a string, you're not talking about a thread, not a thread, like the one for knitting, but actually a thread, like, you know, a thread of, you heard of a Twitter thread, right? It's just words. So, but it is sentences. Sentences are in forms of threads, in forms of strings, words, things like that. So, so in string manipulation, most of the time we use case when and if else. And this is what that means. It just means if something is in certain form, if this condition, if a condition is met, do that, or do this, do that. If not, if the condition is not met, do the other thing, do this, okay? So if this condition is met, do that. If it is not met, do something else. For example, I'd like to use this data set here, this empty cars data set. There is these things. So there is this variable here called AM. AM is automatic or manual. So this is about cars. Empty cars is about car. And this value here is about is whether this car is automatic or manual. And we like maybe to make one be manual and 0 be automatic. 0 is automatic, 1 is manual. So that's what I would like us to change and say that 1 is manual, 0 is automatic. So and that's what you do with the string. So if we take our empty cars data set and say, and then we mutate, you want to remember mutate, we said we create a new variable or we transform an existing variable. In this case, I want to create a new variable, but using this thing. So, I'll just say type of car, whether it is manual or I think it is transmission. Whether the transmission is manual, I think it's supposed to be transmission. Right? Transmission. So this is where if else come. We say if else, they are put together. If else, take the second one. So it says if AM is equals to 0, you put to 0. If it is equals to 0, you say it is automatic. You have to put it into quotation marks, automatic. So what I'm telling my R program here is that whenever you find a condition that is 0, that you say automatic in my new column called transmission. And else, if it is not 0, it is something else other than 0, you call it manual. And then you run it. And then you see now I have a new column that I've just created called transmission. And anything that is 1 is manual. Anything that is 0 is automatic. And I could also, instead of creating, I can just transform that one and just say AM. Okay, and it just transform that column. And this would be easier to work with when I want to do some kind of visualization. I can do ggplot. Now, I might have not shown you that, but you can attach, you can say, and then to ggplot, but in this case, you don't put the data set in here, because remember you said ggplot df. So in this case, because this part stands for the data frame, you're attaching the data frame to our visualization. So, and we want to visualize the AM. Let's say geom bar. Let's just use bar. Let's see. So we have here, you can see on the other side, this is automatic, this is manual. So in total, we have a count of about, this is about 25 automatic vehicles, and less than 15, I think. I don't know. We can try to find that, but we can see the automatic vehicles are more than the manual. And you can see now it is in this form, automatic or manual, instead of 0 and 1. So that is called string manipulation. And you always use it. So here we say that if else. So if AM is equals to 0, call it automatic. If it is anything else other than 0, you call it manual. That's what happens. And use if else. It is use if else when you have two conditions, when you have two variables, when you have two levels of a variable. So that's what I'm saying, because you only have two, it is 0 and 1. You only two. So use when your levels of your variable are just 2, that's when you use if else. So if else, so if AM is equals to 0, give it a value of automatic. If it is anything other than 0, give it the manual level. So that is case when. Now, okay, just a minute. Let me get another data set so you can talk about case when. And this is in the dplyr package in the tidyverse. Now, case when applies when you have more than 2 levels. We used if else because in here we had only 2 levels. But if we had more than 2 levels, we would use case when if the levels were more than 2. Let's just use this data set, for example. Here we have cylinders, 6 cylinders, 4 cylinders, 8 cylinders. So here there are more than 2 levels in this variable called cylinders, CYL. And therefore, maybe you would like to write this as high, 8 is high, 4 is medium, and 4 is low, and 6 is low. 6 is medium, 4 is low, and 8 is high. So just to give an example, just to think in those lines. So empty cars, let's take just and say, and then we just say mutate. I want to mutate that column called cylinder, and I want to say to use this case when. Case when. So this is how it applies. So case when, so we take cylinder. When our cylinder is equals to, you put 2 is equals to, then is equals to 4. You give it a tilde and you give it a name. You say this is low cylinder. Okay. Then you put a comma. You say cylinder. When cylinder is equals to 6, put a tilde once more. You say this is medium. Comma again. So when your cylinder again is equals to 8, give it a value of high number of cylinders. So we have a low number of cylinders, medium, and high. So let's run that. Let's see what we get. Here it is. It has changed this data set. So our cylinders are neither now 4, 6, and 8, but it is medium, low, and high. So that's when you use case when your levels are more than 2, when you cannot use this case if else. Because if you used if else, it would mask any other thing. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say empty cars again. Let's mutate. Let's take cylinder. Let's call it wrong cylinders, just to illustrate. So we say if else. So here we are saying if the cylinder is equals to 4, you give it low. Okay. and anything else, you give it high. So you'll find that in this case, we will only have 2 levels, okay? High and low. So we've grouped 6 and 8 as high. So you can see you cannot use if else when you want to show more than 2 levels. This one has skipped this middle part. So you only use if else when these are only 2 levels. But when there are more than 2 levels, you have to go to case when. And this is quite useful when you're using your data manipulation, because there are times you'd like to group things together. There are times you'd like to say if something is this, even if it is a group, you can choose and say this is medium, this is low, and all that. So it comes in handy. There are so many different ways. It is very useful. There are so many different ways you can use. So I wanted you to know about if else and case when. Yeah. Let me try to get some data and see whether we can get a more realistic file here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As you try to do this, do you have anybody with a question they can ask? I hope, I don't know, I'm thinking if I'd claim this. Okay, this is some data set. Bernadette, I believe you worked on this at some point. I can see your name here. Mm-hmm. Let's see. So maybe okay. I think I had cleaned this. That's okay. Let's say this licensed, this yes and no's are written in small letters. Maybe I want them in capital letters. So I would just come here and say AgroDealers, because I know the levels are just 2. And then I say mutate. Say call it just license, just like that. Is equals to. So we say if else the licensed is equals to, if it is yes, as it is written there in small letters, I want you to write it as yes. And if it is something else, I want you to write it in capital letters as no. You can see the difference. When I was using numbers, I was not quoting the numbers. In R, we don't quote numbers unless if we're treating them as characters instead of numbers. But whenever you're talking about strings, you have to quote them. So I'm saying that if the license is yes, put it capital yes. If it is something else than this small s, put it no. Then you run it. And then that will change that part for you. Let me try view. Let's view that data set. See how it looks like. Okay, they just changed licensed. Doesn't changed. Why? Oh, I give it a new name. I give it a new name. Let's go to the end. It has to be at the end. Yes, it is. So you see the yes is in capital letters, and the no is everything else other than yes is in capital no. So that is the use of if else and case when. Yes, any questions? Bernadette, you have a question? Have you understood what is going on?
Yes, I've understood.
It is clear now. You'll be able to use it somewhere. Yes. Will you?
Yes, I'll be able to use it.
Yes. Okay. Gloria, what do you think? Was it helpful? I can't hear her. So I just wanted you to internalize that and just do some practice on that. Then we'll continue from there. However, let's talk a little bit of ggplot2. So we said that ggplot2 is just the grammar of graphics. Grammar of graphics. Someone called it the glamour of graphics. So the glamour here to mean the beauty of graphics, how to put the graphics in a better way. So someone coined this term talking about glamour. Using the grammar, it is the grammar of graphics, but now you want to look at the glamour, the beauty of the graphics. And we said that if you want to plot anything, you use this formula of this ggplot2. In here, you put your data set, the DF, and then the what you call aesthetics. And in this case here, you put what is the x-axis, what you want to be the y-axis, and then the geom, the shape that you want to use. In this case, is it a point? Is it a column or a bar? Is it a dot plot? It can be a box plot. It can be anything that you want it to be. So this is a general formula. This is a general grammar of graphics. So the grammar of graphics, you have the data frame, you have the aesthetics, which is the x and the y axis, what you want to be your y and y axis. Now you add to it the shape that you want to use, the geom, the shape. Now, whenever we are working with the tidyverse function, we always use and then. But whenever we come to plotting or making graphics, we always use plus. You see, this plus. So you might make that mistake and you're doing this thing until it becomes a problem. So let us try just as we did the other time and see Gapminder. Use Gapminder. So ggplot2, we put our data as Gapminder. Our data is Gapminder. Then our aesthetics, which will be, let's look at the data set itself, the Gapminder data. So I call the data set to see it. Here it is. So we have these countries: country, continent, year, life expectancy, population, and GDP per capita. So in this case, you might want to plot life expectancy maybe over the years. So let's try to see that. So our x-axis will be the year. Our y-axis, let's be the life expectancy. Life expectancy. And if you run that, let's say it gives you an area where you can plot. Now in here, you can add your bars, your lines or whatever with this plus. So let's put geom. In this case, let's put line, geom line. So to have a line. So let's see, it gives me a weird thing, but it's okay. Let's say we only have one group. Group is equal to just one. I want it to be just one group. Still not giving me. Geom line usually have issues, and therefore there is a certain function called start summary. that gives you a summary. Now, I want our data to be summarized in some form. And this, we want to have a summary of mean and standard error. That's what that means. And then what is our geom? What do we want to use? We must have a geom. It is a line. And this line has to be in quotation. Let's see whether that works. Yes, now we have a continuous, a good line showing what has, on average, what has been happening over the years. We can give this line some size. Size is equal to 2. Let's see, yes, we can even give it a color. Give it color number 4. See what color number 4 is. It is blue color. Now, there is this function I've talked about, stat summary. Now, this one is a little deeper. You go into R and programming, but with the time I'll explain to you why this happens and why the normal geom line did not just work. So there is these additional functions that work. So, but simply what you are saying, we can have group here instead of being one group. We can put a group here to be a continent, so we can see how the continent, the life expectancy, the life expectancy has been changing over the years across the continents. And you can see, let's color according to the continents. Let's see what we find. Let's space our work. So in this case, we said ggplot2. This is our data set, which is Gapminder. Our aesthetics, our X is here, X axis, X here. It's not a must, X is here. And our Y is life expectancy. So this is our X axis where we have the years from 1950 to 2000 and something, I don't know, 2005 or so. And then I want us to see how the continents are. We are grouping the lines by continents. Let's see how each continent looks like. And you are giving color to each of the lines for the continent. And then the shape you're using in this case is geom line. But now you're using a function here to just give us a summary of the mean and the standard errors. So this is useful when creating error bars in bar charts. And maybe you can try, let's try to do that just a minute. Let's take ggplot once more. ggplot. We have Gapminder as our data set. Our aesthetics, let our x-axis be the continent. And let our y-axis be the life expectancy. Let's see whether that looks. Yes, to give it a place. Now let's have a geom column. Let's have a column. As you can see, these values are too high. So what they're giving us here are the sums of life expectancy. Life expectancy cannot be 30,000 years. I think 300 years. And this is a problem with the bar charts. And because of this, that's why we use this function to give us a summary, the mean, to give us the mean instead of the total, the addition of all life expectancies in that column. That's why we don't use the geom column in that case. So I'll leave that there, copy. And then that's why I'm introducing this function that works out for us the means, GT summary. And you're saying, what is the function that you want to use? There are so many functions, but in this case, I just want to see the mean and the standard error. And then the geom I want to use is a bar graph. So now it makes sense. So we have 40 years. In Africa, it's about 50 years. Life expectancy was 50 years. So it was Oceania, I think it was the highest. I don't know how much it is, but you can get it. But you can see that now it is making sense. So this was not making sense. 300,000 years for the life expectancy according to this. So this, you have to be very, 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 this is a problem that you should be aware of. Don't just plot bars and just leave them, just look at this. So therefore, that's why we have to do this, get the mean and the standard errors. So I would like also to get the error bars, start summary. Sorry, start summary. And the function is the same. Use the same function. It has to be quotation the mean, standard error. The geom in this case, let me just use bar, but now I want this to be the error bar. Let's see how that looks like. Yes, now we have a graph, error bar graphs that are very common in Excel. So the error is quite little here. You can see the standard errors here. They are quite low. So let's fill these with a color. And this color should be the color of the continent. Let's see. Yeah, so just making the plot more beautiful. But when you're doing for publication, they have to be grayscaled. So this now makes sense. So I want you to note things that when you're doing, especially the columns and the lines, in most of the time, you need to get the means. And instead of you working out the mean using the mutate functions, this ggplot can work that out, for you. Someone created this function and solved that problem for you. The same case here. I hope you've seen that this was unrealistic, couldn't be true, but now having solved it in that manner, we have a better graph that is realistic. And that's how we create error bars. Now, in here, I said color, just completed color is equals to continent. Color is equals to continent. Yes, color is equals to continent. But in here, I talked about fill is equals to continent. So why not color for it to be consistent, or fill for it to be consistent? So when you're talking about lines and points, we color the points. But when you're talking about bars and columns, you fill them with a color. They are filled with a color, like you're pouring ink into a column. But now you have to paint these ones, the lines. So you just say color. So it is color. But with the bars, when you're talking about bars, and you can see in this part, because I said fill is equals to continent, you can see the bars are filled, but the error bars are just in grayscale. They're just black and white. They're just in black. So for me, because these are lines, they're not bars, for them to be also having the same color, I'll have to say color. And then color is equals to the continent. Continent. And I run that. Checking how well to compute. You see now the colors have been also extended to the error bars. The error bars. So that's the difference. So color is for points and lines. Fill is for bars or columns. And that is it for today. Let's hope there'll be a next time. Then we can maybe dig more into our programming and RStudio. So what is important today is this part. Case when, if else. Something here is function, start summary. It's very important. Always look at your bars. All right, that's it from me today. Any questions, any concerns?